Welcome back to Drafting with Mark, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at creating this part using Inventor. Now I have drawing this in using 3D AutoCAD, so if that's something that you want to see, please refer to that video, and I'll remember to link up here in the top right corner here. But in this video we're going to take a look at that doing this one in Inventor. Now in some of my other Inventor videos, I've shown you how to set up some of the project folders and things of that nature. But in this one, we're just going to get right into doing the modeling, and we're going to also do the 2D part in this one. So this is going to be one complete video, and it might be a little long, so I'm going to apologize here in the beginning for it. But let's go through the whole entire thing, right? So first I'm going to do is create or set up what type of part it is. So in Inventor, different from AutoCAD, we have to define the units here in the beginning. So I'm just going to click on the new button here, and then once my dialog box appears, it's going to ask me to select what I want. So underneath the English US, I'm on metric right now, but if I had this going in English units or imperial units, I can select here, right? And you can see behind each of these icons here, I get an inch or something along that line. But we're going to be doing metric, so I'm going to select the metric folder. And now we have these broken up into many different parts, but what we're going to be doing here is creating a standard millimeter part. Now in some of the other videos I will get into sheet metalling and things of that nature, so if that's something that you're also curious about, please stay tuned for those type of videos. But in this one, let's go ahead and start with the standard millimeter IPT. You can either double click on this icon or hit create. And then we're going to give Inventor a little time to go through its process and load up things, so let's go ahead and get that going. Alright, so once Inventor is ready to go, you should see that the ribbon should be ready to go, and you got your browser here to the left. And we do have a view cube just like we have in AutoCAD with some of the same tools or the navigation tools here. Alright, so in this program what we have to do is that we're going to have to create a sketch and build on that. It's the exact same process that we do in AutoCAD, but in here we got to create them as separate. So you remember that in AutoCAD I created them all as once, and then I broke them up into individual sketches. In here are individual polylines. In here I'm going to create each one of those sketches, and those are going to be my polylines, right? So let's go ahead and create the 2D sketch, and then I'm going to have to define what plane I want this on. Also, referring back to that video, I had to go ahead and rotate it later, right? So I had to rotate it to create the front view. In this one I can automatically do that here from the beginning, so I could select either the front view, and it's going to rotate around and it's going to give me which plane is parallel to that one. Or I can select it here because we can see that this is in the exact same orientation as the front one. So let's go ahead and select this XY, and I'm purposely kind of clicking up here on the name. So when I click up here on the name, it's going to rotate around and it's going to keep the word front in the right orientation. Alright, so now I have to decide on what I want to create first, or where do I want the center of my part to be. In this case, I'm going to make the center of my part where the kind of horseshoe shape is at. Meaning that I'm going to create my shape built around this point here. So this is going to be my center of everything. So I'm going to create this horseshoe shape here first. And once we get that done, then I'll kind of proceed and build on the rest of the stuff. Okay, so let's go ahead and start off creating a couple of circles here. So I'm just going to go circle, center. I'm going to click on my yellow dot here, and then I'm just going to kind of preview my circle. So right now it's asking me to give it a diameter. If you do a right click, so don't left click at this point, do a right click, and then go down here and tell it that you want to put in a radius dimension, I can select here. And now when I pull this out, I'm going to type in 60. And you can see that it kind of goes off my screen. Let's go ahead and zoom the extents. So I'm just going to hit zoom. And it's saying zoom all, which is the exact zoom extents. Let's go back to the circle command, so it's still in that one. I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to create the inside. So you notice also that it's still in a radius format. So I'm just going to go ahead and type in 40. Alright, so now I don't know how far this goes down yet. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to draw a line, and I'm just going to go straight across here. Now I want you to keep in mind that all of this stuff can be customized later, so I'm not going to be too exact with where I put things here in the beginning, right? But I'm going to go ahead and place it at a location, and I can go back and come back and change this at any time. But let's go ahead and put a dimension for my center point here to this line here. And I'm going to give that a distance of 50. All right, now I'm ready to start kind of drawing some other stuff here. I'm going to create a line. And I'm just going to click right here on this quadrant, and I'm going to run it long past this. I'm going to do this a couple of more times. So I'm going to go from this point here. I'm going to go right across. I'm going to keep creating that, right? So I'm hitting escape between each one and then going back to the command. You don't have to go up to the command line and click that line. It works just like in AutoCAD. I can type in L, and then that'll put me into the line command. All right, next thing I want to do is go ahead and trim. So the trim command is here. The shortcut also for trim is X. So either one of them will work. So if I go to trim, and what I'm going to do is just trim off these portions of these circles here. All right, and so once I get that trimmed off, let's go ahead and get rid of these lines here. And then let's get rid of the parts in between these gaps. All right. So now you see that I did lose my dimension here. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and put that dimension back by selecting here and then this line here. All right. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that this stays in line with this one, right? And there's kind of two ways I can do that. Either I can make them vertical to each other, or let's go ahead and use collinear. So I'm going to go to collinear. I'm going to select this line here and this line. Okay, you see I still need 4 more dimensions, and typically it's just going to be these tangents that are going on here. So I'm going to go to tangent. I'm going to select this line and then this circle. I'm going to do the same with this line and this circle. This line, this circle, and then this one and this one. All right. Now if you look down here to the bottom right of my screen, it says that it's fully constrained, and that's kind of the standard that I try to get to. Right, I like things to be fully constrained so that way they don't surprise or move on me or anything of that nature. Let's go ahead and hit finish sketch. I'm going to kind of zoom the all again, so I'm just going to hit here, and then I'm going to extrude this. Now remember that if we refer back to our drawing, that this thickness here is going to be 40, right? So if I go to the extrude command, it should pop up and automatically select this sketch since it already sees it. I'm going to tell it that this sketch is symmetrical. And then here, I'm going to type in 40, right? So it automatically knows that the total length of this is 40 and to go ahead and split it equally about my sketch. Let's go ahead and hit OK. And now we're kind of created that first part of here, right? So the next thing I'm going to do is start off by creating the other end on this one, which is going to be kind of this little handle part. So this part sticking out is the next thing that I'm going to create. So let's go ahead and start setting up our revolve sketch for that. All right. And the way that I'm going to do this is that I want to put it on the exact same plane that I created my first sketch on, right? So I'm going to expand the origin. And if you remember right, that is the XY plane, is the one that we used. You can also see here, if you look down at your UCS, you see the XY plane, which is facing kind of that orientation. So that's kind of a quick way of knowing which one of these to select without actually hovering over. So I'm going to go to sketch, and then I'm just going to select the XY plane. Now one neat thing about Inventor is that I can slice this geometry, basically get down to the root of that, right? The easiest way to doing that is hitting F7, or you can select this icon here located at the bottom. Once you see that, you can kind of see now that it gives me kind of a rough little grading of this. Let's kind of pan this over a little bit and start on our next sketch here. So I'm going to start a line. And I'm going to kind of rough sketch this in. So I'm just going to start a line from here. I'm going here. And definitely I'm going to over exaggerate this a little bit. All right. And my sketch kind of looks like so. I'm trying to get it right back even with that first point that I started with. And then that's going to be my shape. All right. Let's go ahead and set this up and do a few things to it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select this line here. And I'm going to make it a center line. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make this line in line with my center point here. So I'm going to use coincidence. I'm going to select my center line that I have and then the center point here. Now I'm ready to put my dimensions on. So I'm going to go to dimension. I'm going to select my center line and then this line here. And I'm going to tell it that that needs to be 28. Likewise, I'm just zooming into this. I'm going to select here to here. That dimension needs to be 40. And then from here, we can go ahead and set up some of our other stuff that we need, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a dimension. And this is one of those neat things about setting up these in the right place. So I'm going to put a dimension from this center line to this line here. And if you refer back to the drawing, it has that dimension sitting at 80. And then I have one more dimension, right? Let's go ahead and escape, and you can see that this is tucked under. I'm just going to left click and drag this part out. I'm going to go ahead and put a dimension on that. So I'm going to go back to dimension, and I'm going to tell it that the dimension from, let's see, from here to here has to be 70. All right, we need one more dimension, right? And that dimension we need is going to be here, right? I need to define where this is going to be. Let's go ahead and escape out of that. But I need to give a dimension of where this is going to be located. So what I usually do, as long as it's on the inside of this, you got two options that you can do. The first option is the one that I'm going to do, but you can assign a dimension and whatever that dimension falls in between here. But I like to be a little bit more accurate than that. So I'm going to go to Project Geometry, and then I'm just going to select this outside arc here. Let's go ahead and hit escape. I'm going to select this arc here, and I'm going to place it on a construction layer. And then I'm going to use a coincidence. I'm going to select this endpoint, and then I'm going to select that yellow arc there. So that way, if this arc grows or things of that nature, it's always going to be touching this arc, right? You don't have to be that exact with it, but I like to do this just to prepare myself that way anything else changes, all of it changes with it. All right, let's go ahead and zoom the extents again. Let's zoom out a little bit. Finish sketch. And now this should work easily for us, is that we do have a center line here for it, and we do have our sketch. So the revolve command should automatically pick up all of that. Once I select revolve, it's going to pick up all of this, just like it did. And then when I hit OK, it's going to automatically do all of that stuff for us, right? Let's go ahead and create this last back half, and then we should be almost close to starting on the drawing portion of this. So I'm going to do the exact same thing I did before. I'm going to create this on the XY plane again. So I'm going to go XY. I'm going to create the sketch. And like we did before, I'm going to create a couple of rectangles up here. So I'm going to go rectangle here. And then I'm going to put a rectangle here. Doesn't matter the size of them yet. We're going to kind of finalize this stuff a little bit later. But I'm going to go ahead and put a dimension from this center point to this line here. And I'm going to call that 50, because that's what the drawing is telling us. I'm going to make sure that these are collinear to each other by selecting collinear, these two lines. Let's go ahead and escape. I'm going to select these two lines, so I have to hold down the control button. So I'm going to select this one, hold down the control button, select here. Then I'm going to tell it make those center marks. Then I'm going to go ahead and give it a dimension. So I'm going to go dimension from here to here. And that dimension needs to be 70. I'm going to set these two equal to each other. So I'm just going to go to equal, select this line and this line. And now I have to add a couple of more dimensions to this thing, right? So I need to tell it how wide or how long these are going to be. And if you refer back to the drawing, it tells me that I have this set to 70. Let's go ahead and project in this edge here. So I'm going to project this one here and this edge. Now I can't really see those, so I'm going to use the slice geometry trick again. Then I'm going to use coincidence and select this line to that point. Or you could have used collinear as well. So if you want to use the collinear one, I'll use this one at the top, but collinear, this line to this line, right? So that kind of covers most of this stuff here. And all I need to do is give it a couple of more dimensions here. The distance between here and here, it should be set to 140. So I'm going to go to dimension from here to here is equal to 140. And now you can kind of do a quick little shortcut here if you want to. You can make these two lines equal to each other, and then that way you don't have to worry about kind of placing that center location to it. Or you can put a dimension from here going down to here equal to 70. Either one will work. I'm just going to use equal, select these two lines here. If I look down at the bottom, I see that I'm fully constrained, but just to add one more little safety precaution here, I'm going to select this line, hold down the control button, select that one, and then I'm going to place it on construction. Let's go ahead and hit finish sketch. Now this one will not automatically pick these two for me because I have two separate sketches, right? So when I go to revolve, it's not going to automatically revolve that. It's saying, hey, which profile do you want to select? I'm going to select this one as well as this one. Then I'm going to go to where it says select axis. And then I'm going to select that axis. Now you see that it does pick those up. Go ahead and hit OK. All right. Let's go ahead and put a hole going through the middle of this one. Easiest way to do that is use the hole command. And what the hole command works on is saying, give me a face to place that circle on. So I'm going to go there. And then it says, give me a concentric reference, which is going to be that edge. And then I'm going to type in the diameter that I want it to be. So the diameter of this one is going to be set to 40. It's going to go through everything. Once you hit enter, it's going to do that. And then we have a couple of more fillets to put on this one, and then the kind of modeling portion is done. So I'm going to go to fillet. I'm going to set my radius to 5. Now I'm going to go ahead and put my radius of 5 right on this edge, right? And then I want to add a new one, right? So I'm just going to hit the plus here. And then my next edge is going to be set to 2. So I'm going to go to 2. I'm going to select this edge here. I'm going to rotate underneath by selecting here on my view cube. Let's zoom in here. I'm going to place that one. And that should be all of my fillets. Let's go ahead and hit the OK button. And then we can go ahead and take a look at this. So let's go ahead and take a look at it isometrically, right? So this is going to be the completed portion of the modeling, right? So this is all done. So at this point, you are going to have to save this file. And then we'll jump ahead and go to the drafting portion of this next. So if you're kind of happy with the modeling portion, you can do that, or you can stay with me on the drafting portion. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and save this file. So you can save it and name it anything you like. So once you've got the file saved, let's go ahead and jump over to the drafting portion. So I'm just going to click the new icon here at the top. And then I'm still in the metric folder here. I'm going to go down to drafting. And if you have a standard title block created, you can use it here, or you can pull it up here, which I do have one. But for this example, I'm just going to use the stock one right here. So I'm just going to use a ANSI millimeter IDW. I'm going to hit the create button. And then, like we did before, we're going to give Inventor a little time to set up everything that it needs to create a 2D drafting. Now, by default, mine came in as a D-size drawing, and you can actually see that located here. So it's saying that I have a D-size drawing. But if I want to use something a little bit different than that, I'm going to go ahead and select this and make it a B size, which is the exact same thing I did in the AutoCAD drawing. So I'm just going to come here and hover over where it says Sheet 1. I'll do a right click, and then I'll go to Edit Sheet. Once I go to Edit Sheet here, I'm going to go ahead and tell it that I want to use a B size drawing, right? We're going to still keep our orientation the same. So if I wanted to adjust the orientation, meaning that I wanted in landscape or portrait, which is what you're reading here, I can change that. And then these little icons here tell you exactly where you're going to orient your title block. So if we're using a title block, or if you have one, you can put that in various different locations. So let's go ahead and hit the OK button. You can see that I'm now at a B-size drawing. My title block does look a little bit bigger. So let's go ahead and get rid of our title block. So I'm going to select here where it says ANSI large. I'll right click, and then I'll tell it to delete, and that should go away. All right. So you can see down here at the bottom left that I did name that drawing that we just completed as a caster, right? I don't know whatever name you selected or you saved for it, but it still should be down here at the bottom in these tabs that you can select through them. Let's go back to drawing 1. And then we're going to go ahead and start our placing of our views and things of that nature. And what I actually did is I double clicked on it. And it looks like it got rid of my drawing here. So I might have to do that step again. Nope, there it is over here on the side. So I will say sorry, my computer is running a little bit slower here. Let's go ahead and maximize that. All right, let's go ahead and bring in the base view, right? So I'm going to go to base. And if I have this left open, it's going to automatically say, hey, you want to do this view. Now, I have the little move icon here. If you don't want it in the center, just left click and hold, and then drag it down here at the bottom. So this is one of those things that's unlike AutoCAD, is that I can adjust the size in two different places. Either I can type in the size here, or if I left click and drag when I get this icon on the corner, and as I pull this thing outward, you're going to see that it will adjust to whatever the standard scale is, right? So we had it at a half scale before, and now it's at a full 1:1. So if I want to adjust this down to, something maybe a little bit smaller, let's go ahead and see what 0.75 looks like. And that might be about the same size as here. We can actually go a little bit smaller, so I'm just going to double click on this view. So when I get the dotted lines, I'm just going to go ahead and change this. Let's see what 0.625. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. I'm just going to go ahead and drag this down a little bit here. Right? I'm going to go ahead and project in the other views just by going to project. This is the only view that I have, so I'm just going to left click one above it, left click over here, and then I'm going to place my isometric here. Once you're done with all those left clicks, do a right click and then tell it to create. And you're going to see that we should get the identical views that we created in AutoCAD, since both of these are, basically the same three-dimensional part. Let's go ahead and double click on this isometric view, and we're going to make this a little bit smaller than what we have here. So I'm going to adjust this down to a 0.5. And I really didn't mean to hit enter after that. I'm going to double click on this again, and then I'm also going to change the way this looks. So I'm going to tell it that I want this to be shaded, right? And when I hit shaded, you're going to see this icon change. I'm going to go to OK, and now we have a shaded view of our three-dimensional part. All right, some of the other things that I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to go ahead and place my center lines and things of that nature on here. And I'm going to go to the Annotate tab. And here are all my center lines and center marks and things of that nature. So I'm going to start off by creating a big center mark located here. And you can see sometimes it'll only give me the half one. So if you want to select the other side, I'll get that line there. Let's go ahead and escape out of this. I can left click and drag this, so I can do a little customizing of this just by dragging it like so. Let's go ahead and put the center line that's going through the back here, and that's just going to be a bisecting one. So I'm going to select here. I'll select this center, those hidden lines there, and then these hidden lines. So now I get my view here in the middle. Go ahead and escape out of this, and just like we did with the last one, I'm just going to extend these a little bit past it. Let's go ahead and finish putting some center marks on this. I'm just going to center mark this circle here, and then these. Let's go ahead and escape out of this, and I'm just going to start adjusting these as I see fit. Now, if you want those lines to be broken up into that, let me go ahead and undo that. And if that is not kind of what you want, you can always come back and use your bisector. And then I can start stretching this one out, and then I'll get those center lines. So if you want to see those center marks on here, sometimes the best ideal is not to just stretch these lines out, as you can see on here as well. If I wanted those center lines to come on here, I can kind of stretch this back to where it's at. And then I can also use the center line command. I can select my center mark there. Then I'm just going to select that midpoint, right click and hit create, and then it will adjust it for me. So you got two different options there. You can either bisect and stretch, or you can use the center line. All right, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take a look at my dimensions, right? So when I do any kind of dimensioning, I'm going to go to dimension, and when you do that, here's where your standard styles will be. If I select under here and I can choose which one I want, I'm going to use the default millimeter. And then I'm just going to start selecting my dimensions and placing them on here. So I'm going to select a dimension here. Likewise, going to here. I always like to bring my dimensions up to where they snap. So that's kind of one of my things that I like to do. So when I put my dimensions, I'm going to come up, and then you're going to see that they snap at certain locations. That'll help you keep everything kind of spaced out the way you like it. Now let's go ahead and put a few more dimensions on this. Let's go ahead and put that dimension on and kind of zooming through all of these. And I do notice that the orientation and the precision on these are a little bit different. So we're going to go ahead and address that in the styles when we get all these situated. Let's go ahead and place a dimension from here to here. Let's do this one as well. We have a few radial dimensions that we need to go ahead and put on here. Let's zoom in. Let's go ahead and place that one there. Oh, let me escape out of that and go back and put that dimension here. All right, and we have a couple other radial dimensions, right? We have one that's sitting on this one as well. Let's go ahead and place these couple here. You'll notice that it automatically is putting those diameter symbols since those are completed circles. A couple of more dimensions here. Oh, actually, I meant to go to the inside one. Let's go ahead and put that dimension back. And we're going to place a dimension from here to here. One of the other things I do like about Inventor is that you can see when dimensions cross, it automatically puts a gap between those dimension lines. Let's go ahead and place our last dimension up here, and then we're going to jump over into the dimensioning style. Okay, so now we have all of our dimensions. I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of housekeeping before I jump into the dimension style. So mainly with this dimension, I'm just going to double click on it. Here is my dimension tab. I can hit the home button on my keyboard, or I can left arrow over here, and then you'll notice that I want to put a diameter symbol in front of that. So I'm just going to select it here, go to OK. Do the same on this one. I'm just double clicking. I'll move over to get in the front of that, and then I'll put the diameter symbol. Right? In this one I have 2x in front of this, so I have this in two places. So I'm just going to double click that one. Same thing here. I'm just going to type in 2x. Go ahead and hit close on that. And let's see, just making sure I'm not missing anything. Got my diameter symbols, got my 2x. All right, let's go ahead and zoom the extension. You can either double click with your middle mouse wheel, or you can hit the zoom home button up here at the top. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at our dimensioning styles to make these look a little bit more of what we like to do. So I'm going to come over to the tool icon here. Actually, it's going to be on the management. So I'm going to go to manage, and I'm going to click on style editor. And of course, we're going to have to wait a little bit for Inventor to load up all of the styles and things of that nature that we're going to have to adjust in here. All right, but we're going to eventually see a dialog box that's going to appear. Perfect. You can see right now is that this is my standard, right? If I click down to here, and I'm just going to expand my dimensions, you'll notice that we use this one, right? So I'm just going to click this one, and then I'm going to go through the tabs to see what I can adjust, right? So off the bat, I see my precision is set to whatever it is, and it's set to 2 decimal places. I can go ahead and suppress those trailing zeros, right? So that's one of the things that I can do. Right now it's saying that do I want to display those? Well, no, I don't want to display them. So when I do this, now those extra zeros at the end of that should change, right? We don't have any angles or things of that nature, so I'm not really particularly worried about that. We also don't have any alternate units, so we don't have anything like inches or something else behind it, so we don't have to worry about this tab here. The display of our dimensions, right? So this is where we're going to adjust the extensions and things of that nature. So if you're familiar with the AutoCAD title block, or the AutoCAD dimensioning style, I should say, this is kind of in those lines and symbols tab that we're doing here. So you can see in here we have nothing really to change. Let's take a look at the text. Now this is where we're going to change the orientation and things of that nature of our text. And you can also see that this is where I can adjust the size of that. The size is controlled by whatever your note text is here. So you're going to have to go and find that text, which is located underneath text, and then you're going to adjust it here. So if you wanted to change the size of that, you would adjust it here. I'm going to go and take a look at my linear dimensions, as I do want them to show like that. But the vertical dimensions, I want the dimension to stack this way, right? We don't have anything weird out of the way on our radial dimensions or diameter dimensions, right? If I select here, you can see that those are the correct properties that I do want those to appear in. All right. Next thing is tolerance. We don't have any tolerancing or things of that nature happening here, so I'm not going to worry about this tab. Underneath the options here, so this is some of the things that we can control a little bit more things that we want our dimensions to look. So for example, if we had a line pointing back to the center on a radius, we can do that. This one, we can affect the jogs and things of that nature, right? So if I got anything in here that I want to kind of manipulate a little bit more, I can do it here. And then finally, these are what you're going to see in your notes whenever you are creating a dimension. So when I double clicked on those other dimensions, this is the dialog box that is controlling that. All right, so when I hit save and close, I'm expecting all of my dimensions to change, which you do see that they did. All right, so that's kind of one of the ways that you can go ahead and do your dimensions and things of that nature. So hopefully you enjoyed watching this video as I enjoyed presenting it to you. And can't wait to see what I come up with next. And, you know, hopefully leave me a comment if you like these super long videos, if you're getting more into it. I used to break these up, but I think now I'm going to create them and leave them long. All right. So once again, thank you for watching. Please give me a like, share, comment down below if there's something that I'm missing or that you want me to clarify. All right. So until the next video.